Imagine you're a young girl in 18th century France, alone in a field watching your family's cattle graze. The sun is warm, the grass whispers in the breeze, and then you see it. Emerging from the tree line. A creature unlike anything you've ever seen. Too large to be a wolf, too strange to be a dog. Its eyes lock onto yours, and it begins to run. Not at the cattle, at you. This isn't fiction, this is the Beast of Gévaudan, and for 3 years, an entire region of France lived in terror of a creature that defied explanation. Welcome back to Golden Cattle Media, where folklore, history, and legend intertwine. Today we're diving into one of history's most documented and mysterious creature encounters, a case that inspired countless werewolf legends and still baffles researchers today. If you enjoy stories like this, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. Our story takes place in Gévaudan, a remote mountainous region in south-central France, known today as Lozère. Picture the 1760s, France under King Louis XV, a world of deep Catholic faith, rural farming communities, and vast stretches of wilderness where forests and mountains dominated the landscape. This was an age before modern science could explain the unexplainable. People lived close to nature and to danger. Wolves were common, yes, but generally avoided humans. Livestock was precious. Children and young women often tended to cattle alone in isolated fields miles away from the nearest village. In Gévaudan, life moved slowly. Families worked the land, the church held enormous influence, and when something went wrong, when crops failed or disasters struck, people looked for divine meaning or divine punishment. It's into this world that our beast arrived, a creature that would claim over 100 victims, defy the king's best hunters, and leave behind a legacy that blurs the line between history and legend. Early summer 1764, a young woman was tending cattle in the fields when she saw something approach. Later, she would describe it as, quote, like a wolf, yet not a wolf, unquote. The creature came directly at her, ignoring the livestock entirely. Just as it was about to reach her, a bull from the herd charged, driving the beast away. She survived, but she wouldn't be the last to encounter it. On June 30th, 1764, 14-year-old Jeanne Bollet became the beast's first confirmed victim. Her body was found with her throat torn out. The brutality shocked the community. The next day, she was buried, but notably without full sacraments of the church. She had died without the chance to confess her sins, a detail that would later haunt her family and add to the growing sense of supernatural dread. Just over a month later, on August 8th, a second victim was discovered. Same pattern, throat torn out by what witnesses called, quote, a ferocious beast, unquote. And then the killings accelerated. The beast had a preference, and it was chilling. It hunted humans, not livestock, not sheep or cattle, which were abundant and unguarded. It targeted lone individuals, mostly women and children tending animals in remote fields. Witnesses who survived the encounters described the creature consistently. A wolf-like canine, but enormous, some said as large as a calf, others claimed it was the size of a cow or even a horse. Its fur was russet or tawny colored, with a distinctive black stripe markings running down its back. Most striking of all was the white heart-shaped marking on its chest. But it wasn't just the appearance that terrified people, this creature was intelligent. It avoided traps, it evaded ambushes. Witnesses claimed it deliberately avoided armed men but would stalk unarmed women and children. Some even reported that it could briefly rear up on its hind legs. By late December 1764, rumors spread that there might be two beasts, as attacks seemed to occur simultaneously in different locations across the region. A range spanning 90 by 80 kilometers, or by about 56 by 50 miles. On December 31st, 1764, the Bishop of Mende, who was also the Count of Gévaudan, made a dramatic proclamation. He called for prayers and penance throughout the region, declaring that the beast was a scourge sent from God as punishment for the people's sin. He quoted Moses, quote, I will arm the teeth of the wild beasts against them, unquote. For 3 consecutive Sundays, the people observed 40 hours devotion, intense, continuous prayer meant to appease divine wrath. It didn't work. On January 12th, 1765, something remarkable happened. Jacques Portefeuille, a young boy, was attacked along with 7 other children from the village of Villeret. But instead of scattering in panic, they grouped together and fought back, driving the beast away with sticks and makeshift weapons. This act of courage reached the ears of King Louis XV himself. He rewarded Portefeuille with 300 livres, a fortune for a peasant child, and another 350 to be split among his companions. More importantly, the king declared that the French state would officially hunt down and destroy the beast. But just 1 month later, on February 11th, another child was buried, her body, quote, partially devoured, quote unquote, by the beast. The royal decree meant little to those still dying. Captain Jean-Baptiste Duhamel arrived with 57 soldiers, the king's personal hunting party. They killed several wolves in the region over the following months. Each time they believed they succeeded. Each time the attacks resumed. Then came Francois Antoine, the king's personal gun-bearer, one of the most skilled hunters in France. In September 1765, Antoine killed an unusually large wolf. It was measured, examined, and its body was sent to Versailles for the royal court to inspect. Antoine was celebrated. The beast, they declared, was dead. And when Antoine left the region, the attacks resumed. The court in Versailles ignored the reports. As far as they were concerned, the matter was closed, but in Gévaudan, the nightmare continued. In 1767, a local farmer named Jean Chastel joined the hunt near Mount Mouchet. Unlike the king's professional hunters, Chastel was a man of deep faith. He carried his Bible with him, and his bullets had been blessed with holy water. On that day, Chastel caught and killed a wolf-like creature similar to the size of Antoine's wolf. When the animal was cut open, they found human remains inside its stomach. Finally, it seemed that the true beast had been killed, but here's where the story takes a strange turn. Before the body could be transported to Versailles for examination, it began decomposing at an unnaturally rapid rate, making any official verification impossible. But after Chastel's kill, the attacks stopped. So what was the Beast of Gévaudan really? Historians and scientists have proposed several theories. The most common explanation is that the beast was simply an abnormally large wolf, possibly suffering from disease or injury that made it more aggressive towards humans. However, wolf experts note that wolves virtually never target humans as preferred prey, making this explanation incomplete. The next is that it could have been a striped hyena. The distinctive striped markings described by witnesses have led some researchers to suggest a striped hyena possibly escaped from a private menagerie. These animals were sometimes kept by wealthy nobles as exotic curiosities. However, hyenas aren't native to France, and there's no record of one escaping during this period. Some have proposed an African lion, which would explain the size and predatory behavior. Again, though, there's no documentation of such an escape. More recent internet theories have suggested that a human serial killer used the beast attacks as cover for murder. Proponents point to the fact that the creature ignored abundant livestock and specifically targeted humans, unusual for any animal. However, the consistency of eyewitness descriptions across dozens of encounters make this theory problematic. What we do know for certain is this. Between 1764 and 1767, over 100 people were attacked in Gévaudan region, with death tolls estimated between 60 and 100 victims. These attacks were documented by local authorities, the church, and royal investigators. Something was killing people in rural France, and whatever it was real. The Beast of Gévaudan became one of the foundation stories of werewolf mythology. The combination of a wolf-like creature with seemingly supernatural intelligence, the blessed bullets used to kill it, and the religious context of divine punishment created a perfect storm for legendary status. The story spread throughout Europe and became a cautionary tale told to children. Don't wander alone, especially at dusk. The beast entered the French folklore permanently, inspiring countless retellings, each adding new layers of supernatural embellishment. In the region itself, the memory remains strong. Local museums preserve records and artifacts from the period. The story is taught as regional history. And while the terror has faded, the pride in having survived such an ordeal remains part of the local identity. In recent decades, the Beast of Gévaudan has experienced a cultural renaissance. The story inspired the 2001 French film Brotherhood of the Wolf, which reimagined the beast as part of a conspiracy involving religious extremists and an exotic creature used as a weapon. While highly fictionalized, the film brought international attention back to the historic case. Documentaries continue to investigate the mystery using modern forensic analysis on historical descriptions to propose new theories. Some researchers have even attempted to reconstruct what the creature might have looked like based on consistent witness testimonies. In cryptozoology circles, the Beast of Gévaudan is considered one of the most well-documented cryptid cases in history, precisely because it isn't just folklore. The attacks were real, recorded by multiple independent sources, and investigated by the highest levels of government. So what do we think happened? The evidence suggests we're dealing with one of three possibilities. First, an exotic animal, likely a hyena or hybrid creature, that somehow ended up in rural France. This explains the unusual appearance, the striped markings, and the abnormal behavior. The rapid decomposition of Chastel's kill could support this, as unfamiliar species might decay differently than expected. Second, multiple animals working together or sequentially would explain the seemingly simultaneous attacks and why killing individual wolves didn't stop the killings. Or third, and perhaps most intriguingly, a combination of a real predator and mass hysteria. One or two unusual wolf attacks would have created such fear that every subsequent death was attributed to the beast, creating a feedback loop of terror that made the creature seem more numerous and supernatural than it actually was. What we can say with certainty is this: the people of Gévaudan experienced real trauma, real lives were lost, and the fear that gripped the region for 3 years was absolutely genuine. Perhaps the beast wasn't just a creature itself, but what it represented: fear of the unknown, the vulnerability of isolated communities, the tension between enlightenment rationality and the older superstitions, and the very human need to find some meaning in tragedy. What do you think the Beast of Gévaudan really was? An exotic animal, a pack of abnormal wolves, or something else entirely? Let me know your theories in the comments below. I read them all, and I'd love to hear your perspective on this historical mystery. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's most documented creature encounters, please give this video a like and consider subscribing to Golden Cattle Media for more stories where folklore, history, and legends intertwine. We've got plenty more mysteries to explore together. Until next time, remember, some stories refuse to stay buried, and some beasts are never truly explained.